I never thought I'd come back to Fairhill. Not after everything that happened. Not after what I did. But there I was rolling down Main Street in a blacked-out SUV with windows tinted dark enough to keep ghosts at bay. A place that once felt too small to breathe and suddenly looked faded. Like time hadn't just passed it by, it had run it over and kept going. It had been 20 years since I left. 20 years since I climbed out of that beat-up trailer on Pine Street and swore I'd never look back. But the thing about ghosts is they don't care how far you run. They hitch a ride and whisper in your ear when you least expect it. I parked a block from the old church. Engine still ticking, I sat there a minute watching the sun set behind the steeple. Same crooked weather vane, same chipped red doors. The only thing new was the silence in my chest. I used to feel rage. Guilt? Yeah? Just this aching quiet that felt worse. Nobody knew I was rich. Not here. They didn't know the scared, dirty kid who used to steal Pop-Tarts from Miller's Market was now the CEO of a tech company valued higher than the town's entire zip code. I'd buried that life so deep even I forgot what it looked like sometimes. But I remembered now. I remembered the cold winters with no heat. The sound of Mom's wheezing cough echoing through the paper-thin walls. The smell of burned coffee and broken promises. And I remembered Dad, though I wished I didn't. I wasn't back for nostalgia. I came for one reason, to fix what I broke. Starting with Eddie Garza. Last I heard, Eddie was running a garage on the edge of town. He used to be my best friend. My only friend. And I left him behind with nothing more than a "see you around" scrawled on the back of a detention slip. I still see his face in my dreams, bruised and bloody the day I bailed him out of that fight with the Andrews brothers. He took the fall for something we both did. Got expelled. I got a scholarship. Life's funny like that. I slid out of the car and zipped up my jacket. It was April, but the air still had bite. Fairhill air. The kind that smells like dust and diesel and maybe a little regret. I walked past the bakery. Still open. Mrs. Timmons still had her stupid ceramic goose in the window. For a moment I thought I saw her watching me through the blinds, but I kept walking. At the garage, the lights were on. I hesitated at the door, then pushed inside. The familiar clatter of tools, the smell of oil and rust, it hit me like a memory I hadn't asked for. Behind the counter stood Eddie. Older. Rougher. His hair was going gray at the temples and there was a scar across his left cheek I didn't recognize. He looked up. Didn't blink. Didn't smile. Just stared. "You've got some nerve," he said, voice like gravel. "Yeah," I said, stepping closer. "I guess I do." He didn't ask why I was back. Didn't ask how I found him. He just walked around the counter and punched me in the mouth. Hard. I stumbled back, blinking stars. Blood hit my tongue like metal and memory. "That's for disappearing," he said, breathing heavy. I nodded, wiped my lip. Fair. Then I smiled. And for the first time in years, so did he, just a little. Eddie didn't offer me a seat. Didn't ask if I was okay after the punch. But he didn't kick me out either. That was something. We stood there in the echo of old machines and older tension, just breathing. I watched him grab a rag from the workbench, wipe the grease from his hands, and toss it aside like the weight of the past could be scrubbed off just as easy. "So," he finally said, "what is this? Guilt trip? Some twisted reunion tour?" "Neither," I said. "I'm here to make things right." He barked a laugh, bitter and sharp. "You think you can show up after 2 decades and fix things? What, you got a magic wand in that fancy jacket?" "No wand," I said. "But I got resources. Time. Money." That stopped him. I didn't mention the number in my bank account. I didn't need to. The way he tilted his head, the way his eyes narrowed, he knew. Or at least, he suspected. "Why now?" he asked. "Why not 5 years ago? 10? I hesitated. The truth was messy. Too heavy to dump all at once. Because I finally got tired of pretending the past didn't happen. That shut him up for a moment. He leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "All right then, Richie Rich. You want to fix something? Start with the Millers." I frowned. "The grocery store Millers?" "Yeah. You remember Jenny Miller, right?" I did. She used to wear sunflower barrettes and kicked my shin in 4th grade when I called her a nerd. She was smart. Sweet. Too good for this town, honestly. "She's got 2 kids now," Eddie said. "Husband left. Store's been hanging on by a thread. She's selling off shelves just to pay the electric bill." "Why didn't anyone help?" "Because everyone here's just trying to survive, man. You think this town forgot about you?" "No. It got left behind. While you went off to whatever shiny life you built, we were still here. Watching jobs disappear. Watching the factory close. Watching dreams rot." His words hit harder than the punch. I nodded slowly. "All right. Jenny's first." Eddie snorted. "What, you gonna walk in and drop a check on the counter? She'd tell you to shove it." "I'll figure something out," I said. Quietly. He stared at me for a long time, then finally said, "If you're serious, come back tomorrow. I'll make a list." "A list? Of names? Of people who need saving more than your conscience?" That night, I didn't check into the motel on Route 5. Too exposed. Instead, I drove up to the edge of Pine Street and parked across from the trailer I used to call home. It was still there. Sagging. Weather-beaten. The porch light was gone and the mailbox was missing its door, but otherwise? The same. I sat in the dark for hours. Thinking about my mom. About how she died alone in that trailer while I was too busy building apps for millionaires to return her last voicemail. She said, "I'm proud of you. But I wish you'd come home." I never did. I slept in the back seat that night, just like I used to when I was 15 and hiding from Dad's bad days. In the morning, the sun cracked through the clouds like it was trying to give the town a second chance. I drove into town and found Jenny's store. The windows were still clean, but the inside looked like a ghost town. Half-empty shelves. Dim lights. A hand-painted sign in the window said "Support Local." Buy here before it's gone. She stood behind the counter, hair in a messy braid, kid on her hip. She didn't recognize me at first. "Can I help you?" she asked. "Yeah," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I'm looking to buy out your backstock." Quietly. Anonymously. She blinked. "Excuse me. I'll pay twice retail. Just pack it all up and let me cover what's left." Her eyes narrowed. "Who are you?" "Just someone trying to invest in the right places." She stared at me. Her daughter tugged at her braid and I saw the exhaustion etched in her face. "I don't want charity." "It's not," I said. "It's survival." She didn't say yes. But she didn't say no. I left a card with a burner number. Told her to call if she changed her mind. Back in the car, my phone buzzed. A text from Eddie. "List is ready. You sure about this?" I stared out the windshield at a town that hadn't changed but needed to. I texted back. "Yeah, I'm sure. Let's change some fates." Eddie's list came handwritten. On notebook paper, no less. Folded once, no envelope. Just ink and names, 6 of them. Each one came with a few scribbled notes. Cancer. Eviction. PTSD. Lost everything in the flood. No last names. Just firsts. As if this town had shrunk enough over time that surnames didn't matter anymore. I sat in my SUV outside the town's only laundromat and read it twice. Then a third time. These were real people. Not faceless causes. Not polished nonprofit reports or GoFundMe links. These were folks I remembered in flashes, faces from the school bus, the gas station, Sunday service. And I had failed them all. Clara was first on the list. 60-something, retired nurse, husband died 3 years ago. Now she was caring for her grandson after his mom OD'd in Ohio. The house was falling apart. Eddie had underlined black mold 3 times. I drove there just after noon. The house sat at the end of a dead-end street lined with cracked sidewalks and rusted-out mailboxes. Her porch sagged like it was exhaling its last breath. I parked across the street and watched for a few minutes. No movement. Then a curtain fluttered. I got out, walked up the path, and knocked. No answer. But I heard someone shuffling inside. A minute later, the door cracked open. And there she was, Clara. Older, thinner, but I'd know that steel in her spine anywhere. Her eyes narrowed behind thick glasses. "Can I help you?" "Yes, ma'am," I said. "I'm here about the roof." "The roof? Leaking. Dangerous," I said. "I work with a small crew trying to help out seniors in the area. No charge." Suspicion hardened her features. "Who sent you?" "No one," I said. "Just a friend of the community." "Aha," she said, unconvinced. "And what's the catch?" "No catch. We patch roofs, clear mold, do minor repairs." "You don't owe anything. I already have someone taking care of the permits." She stared at me like she was searching for a crack in my story. But I'd come prepared. I reached into my coat and handed her a flyer. Printed it that morning at the library. Slapped a made-up name on it, Second Rise Restoration Project. Simple logo. Phone number tied to a voice inbox with a local accent I'd paid someone online to record. She looked it over, frowning. "I got a grandson in there," she said quietly. 12. He's had pneumonia twice this year. I nodded. "Then let us help." She didn't say yes. But she opened the door all the way and let me see the wreckage inside. Water stains on the ceiling. Mold climbing the wall like ivy. The kids' cough echoed from a back room like an accusation. By sunset, I had a team en route. Contractors I trusted. Paid double to say nothing. I watched them work from my SUV the next morning, unmarked van, no logos. Clara stood on the porch, arms folded, wary but watching. She never asked for my name. Which was fine. That was the point. Later, back at the edge of town, I met Eddie in the diner parking lot. He leaned against his pickup, coffee in hand. No lid. Old school. "You did it," he said. "Just start it." He pulled something from his jacket, a Polaroid. Of us. 15, maybe? Covered in mud, holding up 2 fish like they were trophies. I'd forgotten the photo existed. He held it up, squinting. "You remember this day?" "Yeah," I said softly. I remember we skipped school to fish the quarry. You told me then, Eddie said, you'd get out. That you'd make it big. And I told you not to forget us. I looked down. And I did. Yeah, he said, sipping his coffee. You did. A long pause. But, he added, you're back now. So, maybe that counts for something. Maybe. We walked back to our trucks. Just before we parted, Eddie said, you ever gonna tell anyone who you are? I shook my head. I want to fix this place. Not become its savior. He smiled, just a little. Too late for that, man. You don't realize how much you've buried until you start digging. Fixing Clara's place opened the floodgates. Word spread even if my name didn't. People whispered about a mysterious crew going around fixing broken things. Folks called it luck. Grace. A miracle. I called it overdue. Next up was Derek, a Gulf vet who used to work at the mill before it shut down. He now lived in a rusted trailer behind the scrapyard, surviving on bad checks and worse luck. His roof leaked, his heat barely worked, and half the time he slept with a knife under his pillow. He didn't want help. Said no the first 3 times I showed up. You a social worker? He asked, squinting at me. You look like money. You smell like guilt. I shrugged. Not far off. He laughed once. At least you're honest. In the end, it wasn't the pitch that won him over, it was the fact that I didn't leave. I showed up every day for a week. Helped him clear out rusted metal. Paid off the scrapyard manager to let me put in a proper septic tank. Fixed the insulation. Bought him a new mattress and left it on the porch without a note. By Friday, he invited me inside for a beer. Still don't know who the hell you are, he said, handing me the bottle. That's the idea, I said. He grunted. Well, thanks, Ghost. The name stuck. By week 3, I'd quietly helped 5 families. Bought a food truck for Alicia, the woman who made the best tamales this town had ever tasted but couldn't get a loan because of a juvenile record. Paid off the back taxes for Mr. Humphrey, the old music teacher who taught half of us how to fake read sheet music. Rebuilt the fence behind the school where the kids kept getting cut up playing tag. All under fake names. Fake businesses. Burner phones. And for the first time since I made my first million, I was sleeping through the night. Eddie kept calling me crazy. You can't keep this up, he said over coffee one morning. They're gonna figure it out. Let them, I said. What's the worst that happens? They thank me. No, he said. They ask for more. That hit harder than he knew. Because while I was busy patching up other people's lives, mine was starting to crack. The nightmares came back. Of my father. Of his fists. Of my mother crying in the kitchen, whispering he didn't mean it. He's just tired. Of the day I finally ran. There was one I couldn't shake, me standing at the edge of the lake behind Pine Street, holding a backpack full of money I stole from my dad's stash in the crawl space. Blood on my shirt. Rain in my eyes. I never told anyone about that night. Not the bruises. Not the deal I made with the cop who let me go if I left town for good. Not how I used that dirty money to start my first company. Not how I built an empire on the back of a boy who never got justice. And that guilt? It was growing teeth. One night, I drove to the lake. Same spot. Same tree stump. I sat there for hours. Then I saw him. Old man. Hoodie pulled tight. Cigarette glowing in the dark. Watching me like he knew. You the one they're all whispering about? He asked. I didn't answer. You think this town forgot? Nah. It just learned how to look away. He took a long drag and exhaled slow. You gonna save us all, Ghost? No, I said. Just the ones I broke. He smiled. A slow, broken smile. That's all of us. I should have known it wouldn't last. Secrets rot if you leave them in the dark too long. And mine? They were starting to stink. It began with a phone call. Blocked number. I never answered those, but something in my gut made me pick up. A familiar voice crackled through the static. Low. Measured. Hello, Matthew. Only 3 people alive knew that name. And 2 of them were dead. Who is this? I asked, even though I already knew. Your past, the voice said. And maybe your future. Depends on how you play it. Then the line went dead. I didn't sleep that night. Next morning, Eddie showed up at the garage early. Said someone had been snooping around. Asking questions about the mystery money helping folks. Said they'd offered $1,000 for a name. He didn't take it. But someone else might. By noon, word had spread that Jenny Miller got a new freezer unit delivered anonymously, paid in full. And that Clara's house now had a brand new roof with solar panels. People in town aren't stupid. Quiet help still makes noise. And not everyone likes feeling indebted. That afternoon, I caught a glimpse of Sheriff Monroe pulling out of my old driveway. He hadn't seen me. Or maybe he had and he was pretending otherwise. That's the Fairhill way, pretend, avoid Barry. But my gut said this was different. I stopped by Eddie's that night. He was waiting with a manila envelope in his lap. What's that? I asked. Photos, he said, handing it over. Someone's following you. Or at least your van. Inside were grainy shots. Me outside Clara's. Me loading lumber into a contractor truck. Me writing checks. I think they're trying to pin something on you, he said. Or maybe blackmail. Why? Because power hates losing control. And you, my friend, are screwing with the balance. That hit me harder than I let on. I thought I could do this quietly. Slip in, help out, vanish. But towns don't like ghosts. They want explanations. Receipts. Someone to thank for blame. I leaned back against Eddie's wall, heart pounding. I'm not done yet. Then you better move faster, he said. Because the past? It's coming up behind you. That night, I made a decision. If someone was trying to expose me, I'd beat them to it. So I went to the one place that always knew how to spread a story, Maureen's Diner. It was late, maybe 10:30. The booths were half empty, the coffee stale. But Maureen was there, wiping down the counter with the same ferocity she used to scold us for cutting class. She froze when she saw me. You, she said. I knew it. I nodded. You here to confess or ask for a table? Both. She poured me a cup. Black. No questions. Then she sat across from me. You look like hell, she said. But not rich people hell. Real hell. Like guilt's been chewing on your ribs. It has, I said. Still is. What do you want? A story, I said. The truth. And I told her everything. Not the whole version. But enough. That I left poor and came back rich. That I was trying to help without getting seen. That I owed this town more than it could ever owe me. She didn't speak for a long time. Then she said, you know what your problem is? Lots. You think fixing things is the same as healing them. But this town isn't broken because it's poor. It's broken because it forgot how to trust. How to believe. You want to change that? I nodded. Then stop hiding. Let them see you bleed. That line stuck with me. On the way back to the car, I found a note stuck under my windshield. Typed. You're not the only one with skeletons. Careful where you bury yours. No name. Just an address. Pine Street. Lot 14. My old house. The crawl space. Suddenly, the air felt cold again. I hadn't been under that house in over 2 decades. But when I stepped into the backyard of Lot 14, it felt like no time had passed. Same half-rotted porch. Same busted swing still hanging from a single rusted chain. The air smelled like mildew and memory. I dropped to my knees beside the crawl space hatch. The screws were loose. Fresh. Someone had been here. My chest tightened as I pried it open and slid inside. It was darker than I remembered. Cobwebs brushed my face. The dirt was damp, cold. I crawled, feeling the weight of every stupid decision that led me back to this moment. And then I saw it right where I'd stashed it all those years ago. The tin box. It hadn't rusted much. Tightly sealed. Like a time capsule I didn't want to open. I pulled it out with shaking hands. Inside, a wad of bills, yellowed with time. A few photos. One of my mother holding me as a baby. Another of Eddie and me on our bikes. And then folded between 2 receipts, a letter. My father's handwriting. If you find this, that means you took what's mine. You always were a selfish little bastard. But this town will eat you alive. You'll come crawling back. And when you do, you'll owe me. There was no date. Just venom. But here's the thing, my father was dead. Had been for 3 years. Cancer. I didn't go to the funeral. So who left the note? I climbed out fast, box clutched to my chest, breath coming in short bursts. That's when I saw the car. Parked across the street. Black. Windows tinted. Just sitting there. Watching. I didn't wait to see if it moved. I drove straight to Eddie's, hands shaking. He was on the porch, lighting a cigarette. You look like you saw a ghost, he said. I think I did. I showed him the box. The note. The car. He read the letter twice, jaw tight. This isn't your dad, he said. He didn't have the brains for something this layered. Then who? Eddie flicked his ash into the wind. Someone who wants to own your guilt. I stared at the box. I used that money to build everything, I said quietly. Every dollar in my account traces back to that one sin. It's all rotten. He shook his head. You think anyone in this town has clean money? You think Jenny gives a damn where the funds came from when her kids are warm tonight? But it's not just about money anymore, I said. Someone's digging. Eddie didn't argue. That night, I couldn't sit still. I drove past Clara's, past the school, past the church. Everyone asleep. Everyone safe for now. But I knew that wouldn't last. The next morning, it broke. I was halfway through a coffee when I saw the headline. Fairhill's phantom philanthropist. Who's playing savior in the shadows? Front page. Photos. Quotes. Speculation. And a blurry shot of me standing outside Clara's. My name wasn't printed. But it didn't need to be. The wolves had caught the scent. By noon, I had 3 voicemails from local news. One from a lawyer. And one from my old partner in San Diego. He said someone had hacked into our servers, stolen client data, leaked confidential memos, tied me directly to a shell company named Second Rise Restoration, the one I'd used to help here. Everything was unraveling. By sunset, the black SUV was back. This time, they didn't just watch. They parked, and two men stepped out. Black coats, blank faces. I didn't wait for them to speak. "You here to threaten me?" I asked, stepping out of the diner with my hands in plain sight. "Or finish the job?" One of them smiled. No warmth in it. "We're here to make an offer," he said. "One that'll keep your little charity games from getting messy." "What kind of offer?" He pulled out a folder. Thick, sealed. "Walk away," he said. "Leave Fairhill. Go back to your billion-dollar bubble. And we'll keep your past buried." "And if I don't?" He opened the folder. Inside, photos, documents, tax trails, old court records that had somehow vanished years ago. And at the very bottom, a photo of my mother, beaten, black-eyed, dated 2 weeks before she died. "Where did you get this?" I asked, voice shaking. "That's not the question you should be asking," he said, stepping closer. "The question is, how much more are you willing to lose to keep saving a town that doesn't even know your name?" I didn't answer. I just stared at the photo, heart breaking all over again. I stared at that photo for a long time after they left. My mother's face, battered and fading, stared back like a truth I never wanted to face. This wasn't just about guilt anymore. This was about justice, about memory, about not letting the pain be the only thing that survived. By the next morning, I had a plan. First, I called in a favor, one I swore I'd never use. A contact in New York, ex-journalist turned fixer. She owed me from a stock deal I buried for her 5 years ago. "I need exposure," I told her. "Real, loud, and I need it by tomorrow." She didn't ask why. Then I went to Eddie. "Whatever happens next," I told him, "it's going to be loud." He didn't flinch. "About time," he said, tossing me the keys to his shop. "Let's give them a show." I spent the rest of the day tying up loose ends. Donated $500,000 anonymously to the Fairhill School District. Signed over the deed to an empty warehouse to Jenny. Told her to build a food bank. Wired money to Derek under a new LLC tied to a veterans fund. Everything I could do, I did. Everything I couldn't, I left to Eddie. Then, at exactly 7 p.m., I walked onto the stage at the old community center. Full crowd. Lights buzzing. The press already buzzing thanks to the leak my contact arranged. I stepped up to the mic. No suit. Just jeans, a worn flannel, and every scar I'd ever earned on my face. "My name is Matthew Collins," I said, and a hush fell across the room like the moment before a verdict. "I left this town 20 years ago with nothing but a stolen 100 and a busted rib. I built a life from that. Fortune. But I never stopped hearing the voices I left behind." Murmurs rippled. "I came back because I owed a debt. Not just to people. To a place. A home I ran from." Someone shouted, "Why now?" "Because I finally understood that money can't fix what silence ruins." And then I laid it all out. The corruption behind the property buyouts. The pressure on the town council to sell to outside developers. The threats. The surveillance. The manipulation. The photos. The letter. The men in suits who tried to bury the truth. I named names. I dropped receipts. And when the press asked why I was revealing all this now, risking my name, my career, my fortune, I said this. Because I don't want to die with secrets rotting in my chest. I want to live in a place that knows me. That forgives me. That maybe even believes in me again. By midnight, the headlines had changed. Millionaire returns to save hometown, exposes decades-old abuse and cover UPS. Some folks were furious. Some cried. Some hugged me. Jenny handed me a tamale wrapped in foil with a note that said, "You still owe me for 4th grade. Clara baked me a pie. Said she hadn't done that for anyone since '94. Derek showed up the next day and said, "If you ever run for mayor, I'll shoot your tires. But I'll vote for you." "Eddie?" He just said, "You finally stopped hiding. Good. Now let's build something real." It wasn't a fairy tale ending. The town didn't magically heal. But the next week, the council voted to block the corporate buyout. People donated. Showed up. Painted walls and built ramps and restocked pantries. Fairhill remembered how to breathe again. And me? I stayed. Bought a modest house at the edge of town. Started a foundation. Kept fixing things one name at a time. No more ghosts. Just work. Just people. Just a new story to tell. Sometimes when the sun's just starting to rise, I walk past the lake. Same stump. Same water. I sit with my coffee and watch the light spread. I think about the kid I used to be. Scared. Angry. Alone. And I whisper something I wish he could have heard back then. You didn't ruin everything. You just needed time to come back and fix it.